So hello there and welcome back to another Night of the Movies video. That's right, I'm not calling these podcasts anymore because everybody's doing podcasts nowadays and it's starting to annoy me. So yes, I'm not going to call my videos podcasts anymore because I never really podcast anyway. I didn't upload them in a podcast form and any other sort of media. So instead I'm going to start calling my Night at the Movies reviews and videos either Night at the Movies reviews or Night at the Movies videos in my intros from now on. So here we are, and welcome back to another Night at the Movies review. And in today's review, I am reviewing Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. That's right, I'm reviewing the third film in the Knives Out franchise. So, let's get into it, shall we? Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery is, you've guessed it, the third film in the Knives Out franchise. And it is once again written and directed by Rian Johnson. And Rian Johnson previously wrote and directed the previous two Knives Out films. The first of the Knives Out films, which came out in 2019, was simply titled Knives Out. And that film was a great success. However, I will admit, the first time I saw it, I didn't like it. I remember going watching that first Knives Out film in the cinema, and I came out of it very disappointed. I could never get past, the first time I saw the film, I just couldn't get past Daniel Craig's accent in that movie. But then I rewatched it when it came out on DVDs. Everyone still use DVDs, it feels like no one does nowadays. But anyway, I still watch DVDs, and I watched this film, I watched the first Knives Out when it came out on DVD, and I ended up loving it. I got past Daniel Craig's accent when I rewatched it, I think because I already knew it was coming, and I just had a great time with the first Knives Out the second time I saw it. That's the power of a rewatch. And then about a year later, the first Knives Out came out in 2019, and about a year later, I want to say, Netflix bought the rights to the Knives Out franchise. And they paid something like $100 million each to Rian Johnson, who wrote and directed the first Knives Out, and to Daniel Craig, who starred in the lead role of the first Knives Out, and the lead role of Benoit Blanc. They paid something like $100 million to them each to return to their roles in future Knives Out installments. So, was it, I think that 3 years later, 3 years after the first Knives Out, the first Knives Out follow-up came out in A Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, which released in 2022. And that film was once again written and directed by Rian Johnson, and it had Daniel Craig returning in the lead role of Benoit Blanc. However, that film had a mostly new cast. And almost entirely new cast, apart from Daniel Craig returning. And I was lucky enough to see Glass Onion and Knives Out mystery in the cinema. Most people didn't get to see it in the cinema, because it released on Netflix as part of the whole Netflix deal. But they did put it in cinemas for a limited theatrical release, so it could get some Academy Awards consideration, which it did. I think their second film got a Best Adapted Screenplay nomination because it was a sequel. Otherwise, it would have got a Best Original Screenplay. But it wasn't really a sequel, it was more of a follow-up. You didn't have to have seen the second Knives Out in order to understand the first Knives Out. Bigger the point I'm making. They released it, they put it in cinemas for a limited amount of time. And in that limited amount of time, I went to go and watch it. I remember having a whale of a time watching the second Knives Out film in the cinema. The Knives Out follow-up. I shouldn't really call it the second Knives Out film again because it's not a sequel. But I remember having a whale of time watching Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery in the cinema. And I loved that movie. I absolutely loved it. Sure, it has its flaws, and I'm not saying it all works. But I think it's enormously enjoyable. And now, 3 years after the first of the Knives Out follow-ups, we have the second of the Knives Out follow-ups in this film. Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, which is once again written and directed by Rian Johnson, and once again stars Daniel Craig in the lead role of Benoit Blanc. And here's the thing, this film doesn't actually come out, it doesn't actually come out in cinemas until late November, I want to say November the 25th, and then it doesn't come out on Netflix until mid-December. So the chances are, most people who are watching this review today won't actually get to see this film until, at the earliest, late November. So you may be wondering, how, Spike? How did you get to see this film this early? And the simple answer is, I found an early screening. It's a bit more than that. The film, there's a bit more to it than that. The film premiered at the BFI Film Festival in London on Wednesday, and it had some simultaneous screenings to go along with its UK premiere around the country, around the UK. And I was lucky enough to find one of those screenings in Bradford, where there was still some available seats. So when I saw there was still some available seats, I jumped at the opportunity to go and watch this film at the cinema pretty early. You know, this film is not really coming out for another 2 months' time when you think about it. I mean, just under 2 months, but you get the point I'm making. When I got the opportunity to watch the film early, I jumped at that opportunity because I didn't want it to be spoiled for me. Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery, the first of the Knives Out follow-up movies, that wasn't spoiled for me, and I didn't want this one to be spoiled for me either. So when I had the opportunity to watch this film at the cinema in early October, I jumped at that opportunity, and that's exactly what I did yesterday, and that's why I'm reviewing this film early. That's why I'm reviewing Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out Mystery, which doesn't release theatrically until the end of November, doesn't release on Netflix until mid-December, now, in early October. And this film, well, I was very excited about it, as you can probably already tell. Hence why I jumped to the opportunity to watch this film at the cinema, because I am a fan of the first two Knives Out films. I enjoy those films enormously, as I've already said. However, I was slightly worried about this film at the same time, because it felt like, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it felt like they kind of rushed this film into production. It felt like Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery came out and got a lot of praise, and then Netflix went to Rian Johnson and went, make the next film as soon as possible. It didn't necessarily feel like the film had enough of a break between the second movie and this movie. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like the franchise had enough of a break between the second movie and this film. So I was worried that this film was going to feel rushed, that it was going to feel undercooked, and that the murder mystery aspect of it would not work. But I was also thinking that maybe this film was rushed into production because Rian Johnson had a great idea and he wanted to get it out there as soon as possible. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes a filmmaker who, you know, is writing and directing a movie, like in this case with Rian Johnson, I thought maybe Rian Johnson had this great idea for this third Knives Out installment and went, okay, I'm gonna put it out as soon as possible because I need to get this idea out there. Otherwise, I'll forget about it, or something like that. So part of me was very excited because I was hoping that this was going to be Rian Johnson, you know, putting out this idea that he's had in his head for quite a bit of time now and wanting to save the best for last in the Knives Out franchise. I say the best for last. The chances are there's going to be more Knives Out movies. You know, Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig, who are like the two people behind this franchise, they've publicly spoken about how they would love to continue making these movies. But as of now, as of the day I'm recording this video, this is the final Knives Out film at the moment. So yeah, I was thinking that maybe Rian Johnson was going to say the best to last and put this Knives Out film out in all of its glory, and, you know, had written the best script ever and everything like that, and had this great idea, wanted to put it out there. But also part of me was thinking that maybe Netflix forced him to put this out quickly after Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery was such a success. Still, I went to the cinema yesterday hoping for the best, ready to be disappointed, but hoping for the best nonetheless. And the gist of this film goes as follows. Essentially, this film revolves around this impossible murder in a church. This murder that could not have been committed. But at the same time, all the evidence in this murder, all the evidence for this murder points to Josh O'Connor's character doing this murder. And so everybody in this town who's in this sort of cult, this sort of cult, there's a bit more to it. I'm not going into spoilers, this is a spoiler-free review, don't worry. But you follow all these characters in this sort of cult, and they all think that Josh O'Connor's character killed, should I say him? Yeah, I'm going to say it because I think it's in the trailers. Killed Josh Brolin's character. They all think that he committed this murder. But Josh O'Connor's character is insistent that he did not commit the murder. He tries to convince all the characters that we follow that he did not commit the murder, and in doing so, he gets the help of Benoit Blanc, once again played by Daniel Craig in this film. And that's pretty much everything you need to know about the film before seeing it. I mean, there's a lot to it, you know. I've only really gone into the general idea surrounding this movie, the whole idea of there being this impossible, unsolvable murder. But again, there's more to it than meets the eye with this Knives Out film. And honestly, after being lucky enough to see the film yesterday, I am happy to admit that I absolutely loved this film. This is now my favourite Knives Out movie. I mean, at least for now. I might have to go back and rewatch the first film, but I definitely preferred it over the second movie, which I absolutely loved, and I think I prefer it over the first film. I loved this movie. I loved watching it. I loved the story. I loved the twists and the turns it takes, which were very unpredictable, which I did not see coming at all, and I love the way that everything was tied up in the finale. This, in my opinion, is the most ambitious Knives Out film yet. There is a hell of a lot going on, and I'm not saying all of it totally works 100%, but when it does work, boy, does it work so well. And I came out of this film with the biggest grin on my face. And that grin started about 5 minutes into the film and didn't really go away. There was a couple of moments when I was thinking, okay, that doesn't totally work. I don't know why that character's saying that line of dialogue in like the opening 10 to 20 minutes of the film. But those things which I thought were going to be unnecessary ended up becoming important later on. And that's what I really liked about the way this film was written. It sort of snuck up on me. There were so many parts of the film where I was thinking, why is this important? What's this got to do with this? Is this feeling like too much? Is this feeling too heavy? Is there too much going on? But actually, it's all important. And it doesn't get too complicated, at least in my opinion. And listen, I'm not a smart person at all, and yet I got my head around this film. I sat there at the end, and I thought that this was the most satisfying of the Knives Out films we've had yet. And that is, yeah, that's ultimately one of the reasons I think this is one of the best, actually, no, not one of the best reasons, I think this is the best Knives Out film yet. I have my nitpicks here and there, but boy, did I have a great time watching this film. And did I have a great time watching it at cinema as well. Which a lot of people probably won't get the chance to do. And a lot of people won't choose to do, you know. A lot of people will just watch this film on Netflix when it comes out. But I don't feel it's the same. Rian Johnson writes and directs a film with such a style and with this confidence that I feel you really need to experience in the cinema. The way the camera moves, the way that he shoots so many scenes in the film, just scenes where characters are shouting at each other, or simple, you know, scenes where characters are just talking to each other, shot in a way that just really, when you're watching in the cinema, you're so absorbed by. This, in my opinion, is the best shot Knives Out film, which is saying a lot, because the first film is excellently shot too, in my opinion, but this film is even better shot, you know. That's not good English, but you get the point I'm making. I was watching this film, and I loved the way the camera was moving, the way everything looked, the way the lighting was used in so many scenes, which is one thing I never expected to say about a Knives Out film, and I loved how it had this classic murder mystery feel about it. It almost felt like a episode of Agatha Christie's Poirot, which stars David Suchet. You know, I've seen some of them, and I'm not the biggest fan of Agatha Christie's Poirot. I mean, there's some of them which I really like, but yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of that show overall. But the thing about this film, it has those same feels as Agatha Christie's Poirot, but it's also better. The mystery, yes, it reminds me of like Agatha Christie mysteries, but in my opinion, is better than those mysteries and has more about it. There's more to this film than you really get in a classic murder mystery. There's this underlying message of the film which relates to what's going on throughout the movie, which didn't really hit me until I left the cinema. There's quite a bit you could read into surrounding this film. And I didn't read into it whilst I was watching the film, but I'd seen the film with my brother, and we were walking out the cinema, and he was saying, "You realise that was that, and you realise that relates to this in real life?" And I was like, "No, I didn't." but now I can completely see it. And that will annoy some people. That will annoy some people a lot. But I thought the way this film related to things going on in the world at the moment was done excellently. There's a sort of timely quality to this film, which I didn't expect there to be. And I absolutely loved. Plus, another reason I love this film was because of the performances. Daniel Craig is just as joyful to watch as ever as Benoit Blanc. But at the same time, this might be my favourite performance from him because you also see a darker side to him in this film. There are moments in this film I was like, wow, I haven't seen Daniel Craig play this character like that, and I'm loving the way he's playing the character in this film. He's also funny in this film than he was in the previous two movies, and yeah, every time he's on screen, you just can't help but smile at him, and you just can't help but laugh along with him, and get so involved in the murder mystery that he's solving. And I think, yeah, Daniel Craig owns this role, or owns the role of Benoit Blanc in this film. Not like he didn't in the previous two movies, but he somehow does it more in this film. But I think the standouts, and everyone's fantastic in the cast, by the way, you know, like the previous Knives Out films. In the first Knives Out film, you got a great stellar cast full of loads of famous actors. In the second Knives Out film, you got a pretty much entirely new cast. Yeah, not pretty much, it is an almost entirely new cast in the second Knives Out film. And in this film, it's no different. You get an almost entirely new cast, with the exception of Daniel Craig. And you've got many great cast members in this film. Glenn Close, Mila Kunis, can't pronounce her flipping name. Kaylee Spain, who's having this meteoric rise right now, seems to be in everything. Dal McCormick, Jeremy Renner, Andrew Scott, Kerry Washington, Thomas Hayden Church, and Josh Brolin, and Josh O'Connor as well. You know, you've got this great cast with loads of fantastic actors. But there still manages to be standouts. I mean, everybody is brilliant in the film. Everybody's brilliant in their own way and plays their characters with their own sort of twist to them, you know. And I think that's also helped by the way Rian Johnson writes all the characters. All the characters are layered and have their own thing about them in the movie. But yeah, everybody plays their characters in their own way. Nevertheless, the standouts for me were Josh O'Connor, Josh Brolin, and Glenn Close. Let's start with Glenn Close. She plays this religious fanatic so well, and every time she's on screen, it's like, yeah, you're amazing. I mean, obviously, Glenn Close anyway, everybody knows she's an amazing actor, but whenever she's on screen, I was constantly drawn to her. And I was about to say something that actually I won't, because I'm trying to keep this review spoiler free, but the way she plays her character, I loved. That's all I'm going to say. I absolutely loved, particularly as the film gets to its big finale. Josh Brolin is tuning up the scenery in a lot of scenes throughout the film, and some people won't like that. Some people won't like that at all. Personally, I loved it, and you could tell that Josh Brolin was loving playing this character. I swear, about a year ago, it might have been less than a year ago actually, I read somewhere that Josh Brolin said reading the script for this film was like reading Shakespeare, and I thought, wow, that's a hell of a lot of praise, you know. And you can tell though that he really feels he's really enjoying playing this character, and he leans into this side of the character which you don't really expect to come from the sort of character he's playing. Again, trying not to give anything away, but I thought Josh Brolin was excellent in the film. But the best performance coming out of this movie is Josh O'Connor. Josh O'Connor, I thought, because there's been a little trailer release for this film, and he's in the trailer a little bit, and where he goes, okay, well, we're going to sit in this room, and we're going to listen to Benoit Blanc, and then that's about it. He says something like that in the small trailer, in the teaser trailer, which has been released for this film. And just from that teaser trailer, I thought I was going to find him annoying whilst I was watching this movie. No. I loved him. In many ways, he's actually the main character of this movie. I mean, sure, Benoit Blanc is, but without going into spoilers, Benoit Blanc's not really in the first 45 minutes of this film, and that'll annoy some people, but I thought that actually worked with the way everything was set up. Yet, Josh O'Connor is in the first 45 minutes of the film. The film is setting up his relationship with all the other characters in this movie, and his relationship, and the point here is that the point that his character is at in his story, if you follow my thinking. And I thought Josh O'Connor played the character perfectly. There's a comedic side to the character which he makes very funny. There's also much more serious and scared side to the character, which you see as the film goes on, and the way he plays his character was so believable and was so mesmerising at the same time. I loved the way that Josh O'Connor was using the film, and I loved his performance. I thought Josh O'Connor was the standout, and the scenes between him and Daniel Craig were also golden. There's this sort of buddy cop feel to most of the film with them two, and I thought that really worked. And yeah, this film isn't going to be for everybody, as I've slightly alluded to there. The first 45 minutes are basically set up, and some people are not going to like that. I personally loved that because of how the setup was done. It wasn't just telling us why this character's like this with this character. It wasn't just establishing all these character relationships and establishing what's going on in quite a boring way. Everything is established in quite an interesting way, in my opinion. So I liked the first 45 minutes. I mean, I loved the first 45 minutes a lot, but it's not going to be for everybody. Some people are going to watch the first 45 minutes and go, where the hell's Benoit Blanc? Because he doesn't really come into it until like the 45-minute mark. It might be a bit later than that. I wasn't checking my phone or checking my watch or anything like that. So some people won't like the fact that Benoit Blanc is probably in this film less than he is in the previous two Knives Out movies. And the start of the film is a little slow. It does take a while to get going, and if you were hoping for something more on the lines of Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery, where the film gets going just like that, I mean, literally there's a box and they have to solve the riddles on this box, if I remember correctly, they solve all the puzzles on this box that leads them to Edward Norton's character. That's what happens in the second movie, in the second Knives Out film. If you're expecting something like that, it's different, and I loved the fact that it was different, by the way, and I'll get onto that shortly in this review. But this film takes a little while to get going. It doesn't jump into the murder mystery straight away, and I thought it did that well. Again, I'm not saying that's a criticism, but some people might, and some people might not like the way this film challenges ideas surrounding religion and belief. Some people might take offence to that, and some people might just straight up dislike the ideas that it toys around with surrounding religion and belief. Personally, I loved all that, but the point I'm making is this film isn't going to be for everybody. And I can also see why some people might feel like the third act, the big finale of this film, gets a bit tied down in exposition and explaining what really happened early on in the movie with all the murder and everything surrounding that. But personally, I thought the third act, the final act of the film, where everything is revealed, was done well. I mean, there's a lot of explaining, but it isn't just explaining non-stop. There's more to the explaining, and it's done in such a way that is compelling and engaging and makes sense. You know, sometimes when there's a lot of explaining, a lot of exposition is being thrown at you, you feel like, okay, this is too much. You just slow down and just try and explain this in the most simplest way possible. Sometimes I feel like that, but this film doesn't do that. It doesn't speak down to you. It tells you what happened. Again, I'm trying not to give away spoilers. It tells you what happens, but it does so, and it does a lot of telling you what happened, but it does so in a way that is still interesting. And I love the way that everything in this film came together. I love the way that it kept you guessing as well, literally up until like the last 5 minutes. I was watching this film, and I guessed a couple of things. There was a lot that I didn't guess. There was a lot that was very unpredictable, and there was a lot that surprised me a lot, you know? I did not see so many aspects of this film coming, and the twists, which are literally staring you in the face at so many moments, I was like, what? I didn't see that coming. How did I not see that coming? And maybe I didn't see it coming because I'm stupid, but honestly, I was watching this film, and I got to the end, I was like, that was brilliant. I loved it. I loved this film so much. And you know another reason I love it? Is because it's completely different than the previous two Knives Out films. It's completely different. The murder mystery is different, the tone is different, the atmosphere throughout the film is different, the way Rian Johnson directs it is different. I mean, you can still very much tell it's a Knives Out film directed by Rian Johnson, don't get me wrong, and it still has that Knives Out flavour about it, if you know what I'm talking about. If you've seen the previous two Knives Out films, you know what I mean. You know, although the first Knives Out film and Glass Onion are two very different films, they still very much feel like Knives Out film, and they still very much feel like Knives Out films, and this film is no different, but it's also very different at the same time. It's got its own flavour about it, and I love that he just did something completely different again for the third film. It just spiced everything up once more. I thought this film was going to be very similar to the first Knives Out film. No, that's all I'm going to say. No, it's not. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff surrounding religion in this movie, which I thought was very well done. It asked a lot of questions about the whole idea of belief and religion, which I thought were very engaging, made the film more engaging as well, and more involving as a viewer watching this film. And I just loved it. I love the musical score and how it heightened tension throughout the film. I love the way the comedy was used. Not all the comedy works in this film, but so much of the comedy does, you know? And it made me laugh a lot more than I expected it to. I was laughing out loud in the cinema. And I feel like I haven't done that in a film in quite a bit of time. That's a lie, actually. I was laughing out loud watching Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. But still, I wasn't expecting to laugh out loud while I was watching this film, and I was. And yeah, there's so many aspects of this film which I adore to pieces. Again, I'm not saying all of it totally works. And it is probably the most complicated of all the Knives Out films so far. But you know what? I also think it's the best, because it's so satisfying. It's ambitious, and parts of it really shouldn't work. And I'm surprised that Rian Johnson brought it all together in the way he did. I'm surprised he made it work, but I'm so glad that he did, because this film is enormously enjoyable to watch, and in my opinion is the sharpest of all the Knives Out films so far. I say all the Knives Out films, including this one. There's only been 3 Knives Out films, but I think there's going to be more. I really think there's going to be more. I think it's going to be very popular and be a great success on Netflix and maybe even theatrically. And so I do think we will be talking about Knives Out 4. You know, probably called something else, but still, I think we'll be talking about Knives Out 4 in a couple or maybe a few years' time. But right now, I'm talking about Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out Mystery, which I think is the best Knives Out film yet. And I don't say that lightly. And yeah, as you can probably tell in this review today, I absolutely love this movie. I loved it so much. I was smiling from ear to ear, from about the beginning of this film to the end of this film. So much that my cheeks began to hurt. And I got so into it. I don't usually get into murder mysteries the way I did with this movie. Usually when I'm watching a murder mystery, whether it's a murder mystery TV show, murder mystery film, I'm like, okay, if I'm watching a murder mystery TV show, it's like, okay, in 8 episodes time, we're going to find out what really happened. Or if I'm watching a murder mystery film, it's like, okay, in 2 hours time, we're going to find out what really happened. But I never felt like that whilst watching this film. I enjoyed watching the mystery being solved, which I think is also huge praise for a film that's almost 2 hours and a half. This film is 2 hours and 20 minutes, and it flies by, in my opinion. I loved it. I'm so happy that I did. I thought I was going to dislike it. I thought it was going to be the one Knives Out film which wasn't going to work for me, but I thought I think it's the best one yet. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out Mystery, I'm going to say that it's a... I'm tempted to give it a 10 out of 10, you know. Shall I? Am I feeling it? You know what? I am. Why not? I'm going to say that Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out Mystery is a 10 out of 10. Again, I'm not saying all this film works 100%. I have my nitpicks here and there. But for what it is, boy, do I think it works. I think it works amazingly. It balances comedy, drama, it balances the ideas it's trying to grapple with. It balances all this stuff so well, and every character, I mean, it's interesting in their own way. I didn't expect to like this film as much as I did. I thought I was going to come out and go, you know what, that was good fun. But actually, I've come out of it thinking this might be my film of the year so far. And that's saying a lot, because I loved The Ballad of Wallace Island, and I loved Weapons, which is another Josh Brolin film. But yeah, this might be my favourite film of the year so far. I mean, I'm probably going to see some amazing films next week as well, because I'm going to the BFI Film Festival in London next week. But this is my sort of film. It won't be for everybody, but I thought it was the most ambitious Knives Out film yet. I thought it was the most complex Knives Out film yet. And I thought it was the most satisfying Knives Out film yet as well. Which all made for what, in my opinion, is the best Knives Out film so far. I loved it. And I can't wait to rewatch it and notice all these things that I didn't notice before, you know? Yeah. It's so good! And I'm so excited for people to see it, because it's not going to be for everybody, but people who love it, I think are going to absolutely love it the same way I do. Yeah. This is not maybe the film you expect it to be, but I mean that in the best ways possible. I loved Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out Mystery, and it's my favourite Knives Out film yet, which also means it's the best Knives Out film, in my opinion, so far too. And so, all in all, as what he said, I was going to say once more in this podcast today, Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out Mystery is a 10 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, that's it for today's video. If you have seen Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out Mystery, then please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching this video, and if you haven't yet, please click down below and like and subscribe on this video, and look forward to many more videos coming very, very soon on this channel. As I've already said, thank you so much for watching. Oh, almost said listening there. No, I'm moving away from podcasts. Everyone does podcasts nowadays, so I'm moving away from them. Yeah, because I don't really want other people who just lumped in with all the other podcasts, you know. I want this channel to be a bit different than that. So yes, thank you, as what he said, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys again soon, but bye for now. Bye!